What is up, fam? It's your girl Jen Ether. We are back with another one. Today we are going to be talking about the three things, the three things I wish I knew when I was in my 20s. Number one, y'all, I wish I would have known and understood how to build credit and the importance of building credit. So I'm sure anyone who's done any type of research at this point has heard that having no credit is damn near just as bad as having bad credit. Why do people say this? Is because when you start to build credit, all you're really doing is showing a record to the credit bureaus. These are the three people that keep track of this record. And basically what you're doing is you get a credit card that's a $500 limit. You go out, you spend $300 on that card. Before the month is up, and by the time the card goes to report your activity on the card, you went back and you repaid $300 to your $500 credit card. So all that is doing is showing the credit bureaus that, wow, this person's responsible. So you keep doing that for 5, 6, 7 months, a year, 2 years. You're just building good credit, which is really, just think of it as you borrowing money from an individual. If you come to me and you ask me for $20 and I give it to you, you say, I'm gonna give it back in a week. And then next week, you don't give it back. Even if I don't say anything to you, I'm never going to lend money to you again. So that's how credit works. You're just building up good rapport, showing that whenever you borrow, whenever you spend from off of these cards, you are responsible enough to pay it back. Then your credit score grows and they give you more money in return. And you basically just keep repeating the process. Always pay them back before it reports, and they will keep increasing your credit limit. So this is one of the things that I really, really wish I understood, because once you get into credit, then you start to understand there's a difference between good credit and bad credit. An example of bad credit would be a car. Let's just put it like this. An example of bad credit is if you were to take out a loan or get a credit card and just spend it on nothing but liabilities. So good credit is when you are to use your credit cards or your loan and you're spending it on assets. An asset is something that is going to continue to make you money in the future. A liability is just you throwing money out. So once you get into the credit card game, then you can learn how to use your credit card to spend that money on assets, things that will generate more money, more income for you. So yeah, this is the number one thing I just wish I would have understood in my 20s. Also, if you're someone who is trying to build credit, you don't know where to start, you have zero credit, so anytime you go to apply for a credit card, they deny you, it's probably based upon the fact that you just don't have any credit. So there's nothing for them to gauge. They can't trust you to pay us back because you've never been in this situation before. So shout out to the little chocolate drop that gave me this advice. Very kind of her to give me this advice, so I always give it out whenever I can, because each one teach one. So if you're in that situation where you haven't built credit but you want to start, go out and get yourself a secured credit card. You can do this today. Basically what a secured credit card is, or what it allows you to do, is because you don't have any credit, we can't trust you. The credit cards, we don't trust you. You not like us, they not like us. So because of this, you can get a secured credit card where you pay a security deposit on that card. Let's say your security deposit that you decide to pay is $300. So now they send you a card that has a credit limit of $300, and then you go straight to what I told you to do. You spend on that card, but by time, even if you were to spend the total $300 in your first month, as long as you pay that $300 back before the card reports on it that month, then it's going to show that you spent $300 and you also paid it back. Bang. Now you're starting the process. You continue to do that for 6 months. You'll then get an official credit card where you didn't have to put no money on it. And then from there, you do the same thing with that card. You'll get more credit. They'll raise how much credit they even were giving you on the first card. So your $300 credit limit that you put on will probably go up to $600 or $1,000 because they raised it up. And now they gave you $400 on top of your $300. or they gave you $600 on top of your 3. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's one of the key things that I really wish I would have understood in my 20s. The second thing I wish I would have known when I was in my 20s was basically understanding the power of investing. And this is literally the power of investing versus the minuscule power of saving. So once you get in, I've really looked at this now because now I'm a bit older. I've seen at least 4 different presidents from, let's see, I'll say since I was grown, I've been through, technically I've seen 2 presidents, but maybe 4 election cycles. So Obama, I was grown for him. I was grown for Trump, and I was grown for Biden. So about 3. So within that being said, I've been able to see how money moves and how it changes, how it dips, how the economy changes and goes through different cycles just throughout the years. So it makes more sense to me, and it's kind of hard for it to make sense to you if you're only in your 20s because you haven't lived enough time to actually see it happen. But right now, the inflation is crazy. So the cost of your $1 in America is not worth what it once was. So even before COVID, because this is really what's caused the mass inflation. So before COVID, your $1 was worth way more than what it's worth today. And this is why investing is so important, because inflation is inevitable. I was reading something where it said basically, I want to say it's like 3% inflation every year, something like that. So by the time you get to a decade, you're pretty much at a 30% inflation. I mean, so your dollar has lost 30% of its value every decade. So the only way to fight against that is not by saving your money, because saving your money, you're not getting any interest paid on your money. You're literally getting paid out 0.003 cents, something like that. It's nothing. But to invest, the market, since its inception, the market has given 5% annual return. So that means every single year, whatever you got invested in the stock market, they have paid you 5% on that. So if you invest for 10 years and you make 5% every 10 years, that means now you've made a 50% return on your money. Now, if I said every 10 years, you're seeing about 30% of inflation, so you're losing 30% of your money. But if you can combat that with investing in the market for 10 years and gain 50%, that means now you're up 20% on your money. So I really wish I would have, go back and rewind that, y'all, so you can fully understand what I just said. But I really wish I would have understood that, nah, inflation is not like a myth. It's not a mystical thing. Nah, inflation works like clockwork. About every 10 years, you're going to see about 30% of your money decrease. And the only way to fight against that happening, so that means if I had $1,000 put up, let's say that was in my savings account. In 10 years, I only got about $700 put up. If that was all I saved, that $1,000 turned into $700. You get what I'm saying? So the only way to beat that is by investing. Because like I said, every 10 years, you're losing 30%. But if you invest every 10 years, you'll gain 50%. 50 subtracted by 30 is a 20% profit that you'll be able to make. So you'll still be profiting and you won't lose your money to inflation. So that's the second thing I wish I would have understood in my 20s. The power and the importance of investing just due to its juxtaposition to inflation. Let's move on to the third thing, y'all. The third thing kind of goes with investing. If I would have known in my 20s just about investing, then I would have made sure that I was investing the total max amount that I could invest from my paycheck into my 401k. So a lot of us get our first jobs when we're teenagers. But when you're 18 is when you can really start doing stuff like this. So I would have, 2 years before I even hit my 20s, been investing in my 401k. Let's say a lot of good companies will give you a 5% maximum. So 5% of my paycheck I would have took out And then the company that I was working for would have also matched that 5%. So let's say 5% of my paycheck back then would have been $25 weekly. But that means my company would have also matched that and gave me $25 weekly. So now that's $50 weekly that's being put into my retirement account. That money is being put into the stock market. What did I say? About every 10 years, every year you're going to see 5%. So even if I only stayed at that job for 1 year, I'm still gaining $25 each week from the company matching my money. And then on top of that, I'm gaining a 5% return of the $50 weekly. So if I want to leave my first job, second job, I'm literally leaving out of there with at least a 5% return on what I put into my 401k. So make sure you're going in, if you guys are under 20, or if you're riding into your 20s, if you're 21, if you're 25, if you're 28, this is all important. Make sure you are aware of your 401k, that you're investing in it. Make sure you're aware of how much your company is willing to match you. And whatever your company says they're willing to match, make sure you do the max. So if they say we will match 5%, then that means you put in 5% of your paycheck because they're willing to match 5%. A lot of us don't think about this stuff when we're in our 20s because we're not thinking about our future. But the reason why this is so important is because if you stay and first of all, your 401k rolls over. So if you only stay at that job for a year and you go to another job, you can take that 401k and put it into this next job's 401k and continue your process. But in about 4 years, you're going to have at least, without the market doing its thing, just with the match, you'll probably have about $8,000. Now, if the market does what it was supposed to do, 5% of 8,000, that's probably like an extra stack on top. I'm just doing maybe an extra 500. So now $8,500 in 4 years that's just been sitting there. You didn't even notice it. Now, if you continue to do this for the next 10 years, you're going to see yourself looking at maybe 30,000, 20,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So now when you're 30, you know, damn, I've been investing in my 401k since I was 20. I got a good 10 to 12,000 sitting here. I can take this out and invest it somewhere else. Go over it again. The 3 things I wish I would have known in my 20s was 1, how to build my credit. And like I said, even using a secured credit card where I'm putting down a security deposit on the credit card to start, I wish I would have known about that. The second thing is I wish I would have known about the power of investing versus saving, especially when inflation is inevitable. So I really wish I would have known about that. The third thing is the 401k. As soon as I got my first job when I was 18, I would have been investing the maximum that my job would have matched me from the very beginning. So if you, young buck, follow all of these things, I swear for God, you will be in a very good position when you hit your next decade. So I'm only giving this love because I wish someone would have gave it to me, and I believe in each one, teach one. So even if it's something that I wasn't able to capitalize off of, I'm going to look back like, yeah, I wish someone would have told me that. I'm telling y'all about it. So let's go. These are the 3 things I wish I would have known about in my 20s. It's your girl, Janetha. I'm out.